It's been really fun, I think, out of all the films that I've done, that people who are hardcore fans of the original, that a lot of them do appreciate the remake. And I think that is a very difficult thing to pull off and is rare.
Don't forget to light a candle for your father. And don't forget the cake.
Yo, Gio, where's your cousin?
Yeah, where's Leo?
FBI guy's just asking about Leo.
You didn't talk to him, did you?
No.
I wouldn't repeat anything you said about the feds to anyone, especially not your Uncle Angelo.
These two guys in the bar, you see them?
Yeah?
I think I heard them say something about Leo.
Leo! Leo, you upstairs?
Shades.
These are my, there's so many great actors in this movie that I'm wearing my glasses, and it's also sunny outside, so that I can read all the names of these incredible actors in that movie.
That's a hell of a list too. You kind of looked like Johnny Depp for a second there when the video popped up.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
I got to ask you about your background. You have look at me. I have a plain globe and a wall, but you got you have a gun hanging out there.
That's a BB gun. That's a BB gun.
Oh, okay.
Red Ryder BB gun. Yeah, this is my office here. Yeah, we really, this is sort of my creative zone. Yeah.
That is pretty badass. You really styled it up. So I like it. How's everything with you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited that the movie's almost out into the world and we can sort of take a deep breath and release it. That feels really good. I just finished another movie with Ashley Benson, who's in this film. It's our third film together, and it's called Private Property. And so I'm so glad to get back to work after this year of not being able to work because of, the global pandemic.
Tell me about it. It's good. It's good that things are finally starting to open up and things slowly getting back to normal, and you can go see movies now and all the good things.
Where are you?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, cool. That's where the director's from. It's from Chicago.
Oh, really? Jimmy G?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at that.
I think he was really inspired to tell this story based on growing up in Chicago. I don't know exactly where he's from, but this was sort of, somewhat based on him as a child bringing these cakes to these family reunions and things like that. So he'll love that I'm talking to somebody from Chicago.
Well, we got a huge Greek and Italian community here, so that's very transparent. I've been around some of these things, so I can relate. Plus, I mean, like Al Capone started out here and all that. The whole mobster thing is so Chicago. So yeah, I mean, that's why I probably love the movie too in so many ways too. Man, I gotta dive in. I talked to Vinny yesterday, which was a blast. He's so cool. But how did you guys, like you and Jimmy, how did you guys bribe this cast? I mean, what did you guys bake cakes for them or something? I mean, this is one of the best casts I've seen in a movie, like ever. You just load it from top to bottom. I have no idea how you guys pulled it off, but I'm curious if you have any insight on that.
I guess I do. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I've been doing this for a little while, and I felt so honored that I called some of my friends like Aldous Hodge and Emery Cohen and John Magaro, Ashley Benson, and they're like, "You're putting together a movie?" "Yes, we're in." And it sort of snowballed from there. And of course, to get Ewan McGregor and Val Kilmer and Lorraine Bracco, and it was overwhelming. And I think before we started shooting, I really had to sort of take a deep breath and not be overwhelmed by the talent that I was about to go toe to toe with, scene to scene, and really just take it one scene at a time. They all really responded to the script. I think, with the way that movies are going in terms of these huge Marvel movies and all these comic book movies, It's harder and harder to make these sort of smaller independent films. And so when they saw this group, me and Jimmy, sort of young guys, really, going for it and putting together a film that we were passionate about, they really responded to that as well, and we didn't have to bribe them. We certainly didn't have enough money to pay them what they should be paid. But yeah, we were really lucky. And it wasn't just that they agreed to do the film, but they all brought something so special to these roles that, could have been underwritten for them. I think Jeremy Allen White is a great example of that. John Magaro, that role that we had for him, he was so great that we sort of started expanding the role as we were shooting. And,
wow.
And Luis Guzman, he, obviously took it to another level. I mean, I was watching the film this morning because I haven't seen the final cut yet, and when I come back to the window to grab the cake,
Yep.
I looked like I was laughing. Like I know that I had to seriously hold it together because he was cracking me up. So they really, each person brought so much to it. So it wasn't just that they phoned it in, but they really came and made just huge impressions on us.
That's what I was going to say. You know, it's so tough in a movie like that. Usually, if you have so many stars and recognize, they just make a cameo, just like pop in. But each character here that they portrayed had something to do with the story, had a critical, in a sense, aspect to the story. Everyone played a legitimately significant part. That's what I was really kind of blown away by. I'm like, wow, they got so many big names, but they all, even if they're on screen for a few minutes, they play a significant part in the story, how it unravels. Like everyone's part was meaningful. That was so cool, I thought.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think that was certainly a worry. It's like, gosh, is it going to be distracting when this person pops up and they're recognizable, when you're sort of trying to follow the story. But I do think that, they all brought something unique, and they were all, what was cool about it is they were telling their own story within our movie, so yes, they maybe help the story sometimes, but they're also, it was a full neighborhood. So you're sort of seeing all these characters that we all know from our own neighborhoods, right? You sort of, these different personalities, and so they really brought that, and I think that was why it worked, in a way.
I love that, because I actually felt like I was in the neighborhood. Sometimes you try to recreate movies and it just doesn't have that feel of a neighborhood. Like, I'm not from New York, but I felt like I was in like the streets of Brooklyn, and it's not the sense of New York that you get the glorious, part of it, the city part of it. This is the real life New York, in a sense, like when you travel to New York, you look for some good pizza. This is the places you go to, these kind of real neighborhoods with real people that live there, not tourists. And I felt like this was very authentic. This was like a really kind of Italian and then diverse neighborhood. And I'm curious, did you guys like research these neighborhoods, go into like, what sort of knowledge did you have? Because it came off super authentic. And I, as a viewer, I felt like I was literally in these neighborhoods, and I felt the culture of it.
That means a lot. Yeah. I mean, in terms of the look, obviously our cinematographer, Sean Price Williams, who shot Good Time, he, created that. And so New York was, we set out to make it a character in the film. I think that, we shot a lot on location in Bensonhurst, which is sort of the neighborhood where we set the movie. So to be out there, which is it is removed from Manhattan. It is not the glitz and the glamour, but it's a real neighborhood where people do real things and live real lives. So being on location there was helpful. You know what I mean? We're not showing the sort of cliche parts of Manhattan. We're not even going over the bridge. We don't even go into Manhattan. We really wanted to focus on a neighborhood that exists in Brooklyn to this day, and I think that was important for us, and something that we really held to, and I'm glad that comes across.
Yeah, even the homes, you can tell, like the homes are like, the doors are kind of next to each other, the townhomes. It gives you that authentic kind of feel and sense, like, oh, this is in New York that I don't see much, but it's so much richer and cooler because there's personality to it, and there's real like people that live here. So I thought that was really, and like you said, it is a character in a movie in so many ways, because it just follows these characters, these streets and these neighborhoods. So that was super cool about it. I'm curious, you're here, you co-wrote this film too, and you're on screen majority of the film. Tell me kind of the process when you and Jimmy, and I think there was a three-man crew, right, that you guys had writing it. When you're putting kind of pen to paper, and then when you get on location on set, what sort of things were maybe different or changed, or maybe you envision it how it was on paper? What sort of differences you notice from kind of writing initially to when you're actually filming and making the movie?
Yeah, I think, Jimmy brought me this story that was like 30 pages, and I sort of worked to put it in script form, where, we dug into this character. We talked about him so much that there was an understanding between the two of us. I think that, in some ways, if somebody else had played it, maybe there weren't things that I did that they would have not needed to do in some way. For me, it was really important to create an arc with Gio. And in terms of while we were shooting, I sort of felt like that wasn't there. So there were scenes sort of at the end where I stand up and I make a speech, and that wasn't in there. I really felt like I needed to make sure that people understand that he is standing on his own 2 feet, and he's taking a stance, and he's growing up, and he's become a man. And that wasn't necessarily there in the original script. There were a lot of the things with me and Lorraine, who played my mother, Lorraine Bracco. We would get to set early and talk about things, and we did rework a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the scenes to make it feel authentic and make it feel real. You know, she was so incredible, and she took it so seriously and really sort of worked on the backstory. So things did change in that sense. I think that, you know, for me, I felt lucky in this movie because everybody that showed up was so great. Every actor that I worked with, they sort of made my job easy because I got to sit there and listen. And, you know, as an actor, you know, a lot of your job is listening and reacting. Yeah. And so I sort of got to sort of float through the night, you know, where this movie takes place and just react to these incredible actors. So in a lot of ways that was different because, you know, as you have it on paper, you don't see each role coming alive as much as they were with each actor that played them. You know, so I really did get to sort of sit back and just enjoy their performances and sort of try to react to them and play with each character that came across the screen.
I love how you play Gio. Gio was like, you feel like this is so bad for the kid because he's such a nice kid and was raised so well by his mother, and yet he's in this like mobster family. You would never put the two together if you kind of met him on the street. But I love how you played him with such like innocence and kindness. It really stood out how he appreciates his mother, like the love between them. I thought that was like really, it was heartwarming in a lot of ways to watch. I'm like, wow, that's a cool family dynamic that he has with his mother relationship and a care for the people in his life, whether it's his friends or his cousin. Tell me about the approach that you played Gio, because I really thought it was, you root for him throughout the movie. You know, you just hope nothing bad happens. But tell me about that. Was there any other take you had on him, or was this a take you wanted from the beginning?
I love that. I love your view of it. I think that, you know, it was about this person who has sort of been shielded from the truth in a way, you know. So and of course his father dies when he's young, and it's just him and his mom. And his mom, of course, knows all these secrets but doesn't want to tell her son, you know, doesn't want to sort of spoil his life and reveal that there's all this ugliness happening right, you know, across this veil basically that's been put over his eyes. So she's trying to raise him outside of that family and make sure that he has a different life than her husband did, or her brother, you know, his uncle does. So throughout that, it's sort of about this naivete and this innocence that gets lost over the course of a night, you know, and the fact that everybody in the neighborhood maybe even knows more about what happened to his father than he does. Right. So everybody's sort of treating him in this way where he's kind of still this kid, you know, he sort of hasn't grown up, and they're all sort of shading him from the truth in a way. And so, you know, it's one of those things of, you know, I don't have kids yet, but it's that thing of how much do you introduce them to the world? You know, how much ugliness do you reveal to them? And I think he's been shielded from that. And so throughout this night, you know, with the help of his mother and the help of all these things that happen to him, he really does see the world for what it is, and has to make his own choices as to what is right and wrong. Mm-hmm. That's sort of how I looked at it.
I liked it. I really liked it. I thought there was this innocent pureness about him. And then to see him kind of untangle later on, you saw this inner strength that came out, like, whoa, I didn't know he had that in him, you know, in the end. So I'm going to put I'll put a spoiler warning, but I need to know, I was debating this ending, what happened and how it happened. I was so curious about it, the final scenes of it. What was going through your mind? Like, what do you take away from kind of the ending of the film? Because I was like, oh boy, this could go on potentially, but it's also kind of over. Like, I was just really curious, what was kind of the intention with it, and maybe what foreshadowing of a future for Gio and the family.
Right. What's the sequel in a way?
Yeah.
I think, partially, of course, it's that Gio, you know, throughout this night has become a man. He's lived with his mother. He's too old to live with his mom. You know, at one point in the script, we had him have a girlfriend that was maybe he was going to move in with her, but he didn't want his mom. So, you know, I think that he has a couple choices. One is to, you know, now that the family is, you know, dealt with in the way that they are, does he choose to continue that life, or does he really go the straight and narrow? So there's sort of that decision, right now he could take over his family business and he would be the boss, and does he have that strength now based on what happens over this night, or is he going to sort of leave all that behind and sort of take a new path and take his family and his family name into a new generation where they're honest and good people, So I think that's sort of what I take away from the ending.
Interesting. What would you do as Gio in a sense? I would lean towards the goodness, leave the past in the past sort of thing. I feel like that's when you go along with that journey, he did what he had to, but I feel like it's almost a burden that's been lifted off of him.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope he doesn't get arrested.
That's right too.
Hopefully he doesn't go to jail. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things of like, does that power corrupt you? Now that he's tasted, so to speak, the blood that his family has lived with for so long, is that going to corrupt him in some way? Is that going to make him say, you know what, I do have power. I am powerful. I took them down. I can be the boss. But yeah, I hope that that he continues to take care of his mother, that he grows up and he leaves it all behind. That's my wish.
That's pretty cool. I like that. It makes you feel better, but it's so compelling in so many ways. I always admired your career. I've been a long time fan. I love so many of the films you've done. Return to Sender, and oh boy, I've seen almost The East. I've seen so many of your films throughout the years. The White Bird and Blizzard is one of my favorite kind of like indie films in a lot of ways. You've had an interesting career because you've done so many different characters and different genres, and you've worked opposite, even coming up industry with A-list people. I always wonder, like, are you going to ever make that move, or do you kind of like being, in a sense, under the radar and just creating interesting stories instead of doing the Avengers like big blockbusters, which I'm sure you probably could if you wanted to? What has been kind of your approach to your career? Because I feel like you've had this really good kind of under the radar awesome career with some cool, interesting movies and projects. And in a sense, you kind of done it your way, I feel like, kind of observing you throughout the years. I'm curious to hear your take on it.
I appreciate that. That's really one of the nicest things I've ever heard. So thank you. I think that, yes, there are certain stories that I'm certainly drawn to. I think that, that it's difficult navigating a career and knowing what's right to say yes to and what's not right to say yes to. Of course, I've done big films like Red Riding Hood and the Evil Dead. So these studio movies, and at times that's scared me a little bit. It's scary to sort of make that move and that transition to losing your anonymity in a way. It's such a different world now than when I started with Instagram and Twitter and people sort of being revealing their lives so much, their intimate lives, and no longer that barrier between the character that you are and the person that you are. So that's always been important to me, growing up and seeing these incredible actors that I loved and not knowing anything about them. And I think that's sort of changing. And so I'm still a little bit old school with that, never been on Facebook, not doing TikTok.
I like that.
But I think the industry's changing. We'll see where it goes. I mean, I certainly want to, continue to create and produce things that I believe in, and we'll see if I ever put on the superhero costume. Who knows?
Hey, the world's yours. I'm curious. I've been such a fan of the Evil Dead. I mean, the original, and then you got the chance to remake. That's a pretty big deal. Now looking back at it, now that some years passed by, are you proud of how the film turned out, or how do you feel about it looking back now that you had some time to remove to recreating an iconic film? That's always a lot of pressure, I could imagine, doing that. How do you feel about what you were part of there with Evil Dead?
Yeah, I only saw the movie once at the premiere at South by Southwest.
Wow.
I closed my eyes for most of it because it scared me. Even though I was in the movie, it scared the crap out of me. So, I am really proud that I did the film. That Fede Alvarez, the director, is an incredible filmmaker. That was really important to me. I really believed in him. It's been really fun, I think, out of all the films that I've done, that people who are hardcore fans of the original, that a lot of them do appreciate the remake. And I think that is a very difficult thing to pull off and is rare. So I've been really lucky that a lot of people that I run into and that I speak to seemed to appreciate it for what it was. And what, I think that we weren't reinventing the wheel. We weren't trying to do the same thing that they did, which is impossible because there's only one Ash Williams,
Right.
So I love that what Fede did has been appreciated over the years. And though people were afraid to say that they liked it at first, I think that it's made an impression, and I'm proud of that.
No, I wanted to wrap up by asking you a question. I mean, I've seen your work over the years, and you just seem like you'd be an interesting person. So I'm curious, what do you like to do when you're not filming a film? What sort of hobbies and interests do you have that you kind of, go away to clear your mind with? Is there anything that stands out for you that you really enjoy doing outside of acting?
Me and my girlfriend have, I'm like a lot of people, when COVID hit, we started a garden. So I've got a huge garden in my backyard.
Me too. I started growing plants. Yep. And veggies.
Attaboy. Yeah, exactly. So kind of boring, but that's what I do. I like to read a lot. I love baseball. I'm a huge San Francisco Giants fan. I watch a lot of baseball games.
Good season for them this year.
Exactly. There's 162 games a year, and I would say I watch a majority of them.
Wow.
I feel really lucky. I'm in a great relationship. My girlfriend's actually in the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her name's Emily Tremaine. She plays Karen, who's the neighbor when I go to Leo's house. She's sort of yelling at me about turning.
Yeah. I thought she was awesome. I thought it was such a cool scene.
Yeah, she's great. So.
Oh, wow. She's awesome.
Yeah. So she's an actress and a creator, and she's created a TV show.
She's doing work. That's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah. So we really help each other. We stay creative. Try to, I certainly have a lot of projects with different people that I'm developing and writing, and trying to sort of do that a little bit more and spend my time. I think that to be an interesting actor, you have to be an interesting person. You have to do interesting things and surround yourself with interesting people. So that's how I try to live my life.
Yeah, I always felt like, I've done some acting too, nothing even remotely close to you, but I always felt like, how can you be a good actor if you don't have a rich life experience? When people always say like, oh, what's your hobby or what do you love? And like casting directors, like what's your biggest passion? Like acting. Well, it's like, no, that can be your number one thing, because you need to have a rich life experience, to bring that to a character, bring that to the role. Because if you haven't experienced a life, you just live a life of like an actor. You're trying to be an actor, almost like acting to be an actor. Then you're just never gonna be open to experiences of life, which always fill you with so much richness.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, Ewan McGregor is a great example of that, right? Like his motorcycle documentaries of him going around the world really inspired me. Me and my buddy have gone, we drove motorcycles across Vietnam and across the Philippines. And, seeing those people who really do go out and live life, I think that is such an important part of being an artist of any kind, It does, color the palette in a way.
No question, man. I had a blast talking. Like I said, I've been a longtime fan of your work. Really, really enjoyed this film. I thought it was just super cool. And when a film is good, when you just think a lot is happening, you're always on the edge and you have so much like tension-packed moments. And not much happens action-wise, technically. It's not a shoot 'em up sort of thing. The tension is built through moments, through conversations, through interactions. And I felt like that's hell of a filmmaking there for you and Jimmy accomplishing it to keep that engagement throughout the movie and not have to have outside kind of splashy things happen. I think that's what makes always a movie so good and compelling. And this movie certainly had that.
So I appreciate it so much. So much.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast talking.
Man, it's a pleasure. I hate to say it, I've never been to Chicago, but when I get out there, I'll look you up.
Hey, absolutely. I'll take you to the best Italian beef place, man. I know the spots for food here. This is a food town.
Amazing. All right, man. Have a great day.
Take care, Shiloh. Talk to you down the road. Hopefully connecting on your next thing.
Sounds good.
Take care. Bye-bye.